Howdy and welcome to the Mighty Mo Chuck channel. I'm Chuck. This is the third in the series of Have I Lived the Same Life More Than Once? Now, before I get started, I want to make sure that people understand that the young man that I talked about in video 2, the young man who killed 3 people, almost killed 4, the killer that came about our ranch, he had nothing to do with the man that my father worked for. He had nothing to do with my family. He and his friends were basically strangers to us. Now, to whether the young man and his friends, the killer, whether he was in any way tied in with the state officials or the feds, I have no idea. It's not uncommon for the government to use people and put the squeeze on people to try to get them to sneak about, to try to get them to be snitches. It's not uncommon for them to even try to lure the people into doing bad stuff. And throughout history, it's not uncommon when the government starts doing that to somebody to cause a person to snap and do a lot of bad crap. So I don't really know whether the young man was tied in with state officials or federal officials. I don't know. I don't know. I do know he was not tied in with the man that my father worked for. He was not tied in with my family. Now understand what I'm about to talk about. Understand where things were coming from. This was the South. This was the 1959, the start of the 1960s. This was a South that was poor, as it has always been, even still is. Even though you've got more of the divide between the rich and the poor, you've got more of the divide there. Where in the old times it used to be like 1 or 2 families that was in a town that were wealthy, and then you had a slight middle class, and you had everybody else that was poor. So things they're different now. But the poverty is still here now, and the poverty most definitely was there then. Now, growing up, my father, after school, he had been accepted into the Citadel, a military college in South Carolina. He had been accepted to it, but he didn't go. My father, obviously smart. My mother, above average intelligence. But surviving in the South back in those days, when you come from textile background, farm background, even, and you had a divide between the textile and the farm. You had the small town snobbery, even though pretty much nobody really had anything to be snobbish about. You still had that going on too. Um, Now, Prohibition ended in 1933. That's when Prohibition ended. But here in the southern United States, a large amount of the state remained dry. Even today, there are large counties, cities in the South that debate on whether they want to start allowing to sell hard liquor or not. It's still an issue. It really is. So, even though Prohibition ended in 1933, here in the South, things move a little bit slower, even slower than our draw. And of course, in other parts of the country, I like to refer to the South as the Bible Belt. The Bible Belt. Well, here's a little clue. The South isn't really that overly religious. It really isn't. And just like you got the Catholic Church and the Italian mafia, that's kind of at times been like that. Here in the South, you have, when it comes to politics, you have an unholy alliance between church groups and the Dixie Mafia. And there is a Dixie Mafia that still operates in the South today. It's not free from the Dixie Mafia, no, and it's not this genteel group of men you might think from the Jimmy Carter days. No, they're a little bit more rough than that. So you have the government that keeps certain things illegal, and then the same politicians that's in that government that makes things illegal, they operate in conjunction with both church groups and organized crime groups, basically to see how they can make money off of that being kept illegal. That's what it's all about, man. And you can go back to the 1800s when the Atlanta area was first being tamed and the Wild West was first being tamed. The organized crime groups, they love to use church groups and women especially, because women tend to want to flock to the churches for social reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that. but they tend to use these people for their own objectives, their own goals, and so to tame Atlanta and tame the Wild West, they use these groups to get laws passed, and it did tame the areas. It did tame the areas, but still it created the underbelly where money could still be made off of, sin. Yeah, that's the way it worked. You tamed it on the top level, so the women would be happy. Oh, this is so beautiful, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But part of the objective is the underbelly and the money. You know, it isn't all about making the women happy with their petticoats. So you take poverty and you take the desire to make money, and you have people that move toward the underbelly. It's tempting money. And it's not like these hypocrites that pretend like they're above it all, that sit up in the governor's mansion or the state legislatures or the president of the United States. They're all involved in money, 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 money. Want that money, baby? Now, my father, he liked his motorcycles. He could drive cars really fast and really well. And so, yeah, there there was a black man that was in the moonshine business, the illegal whiskey business, and he needed somebody to move the contraband, and my father got involved. And the ranch got raided. While the boss man was there, the ranch got raided. And my parents decided they didn't want to go that way anymore. They wanted to make money the legit way, obviously. So the ranch had to be sold, and we moved into the in-town place. So the house that was in the mill village. That's where we moved to after they had to sell the ranch because the ranch got raided. So the in-town house, it the house in the mill village, it needed work done on it. And back in those days, people didn't know not to use aluminum wiring. So while the remodeling was being done on the house, aluminum wiring was used. And this goes back to part of the theory that I've been stating is that even though you change time, like I think I changed time when I locked that door, and I think I saved my mother and perhaps myself either right then or later by doing that, by locking that door. I changed time. And I know this part of the theory may sound like it's something out of that horror movie that they do where somebody's spared or escapes death and then still calamity. But that's kind of actually the way that this computer system works, according to my theory. And it's just a theory, mind you. But even when you change time, and you can change time, and temporarily you can create parallel universes, but still those universes still want to merge back together. Time wants to come back together. And so even though you've managed to change time, still there's this, I just call it gremlins in the system. The gremlins in the system screw with you all sorts of ways. But one way is they kind of want to work to move time back to approximate, maybe not, get it directly back the way it was, but to approximate the way it was. And so you've escaped death, but still death is lurking. So after we moved into the house in town, the mill house, it caught on fire, and it was a bad fire. It was bad. We managed to escape. We did manage to escape, but it was a bad fire. Okay, this video has probably already gone on longer than it should, so I'm going to bring it to an end. Next video, I will talk about what happened during the fire, and there was something strange that did happen during the fire. Much thanks for watching and listening. I do appreciate it. Thank you.